After I sanded down my veneer, what I did was I cut out little strips, just like that, and on a radius, so it matches the fretboard, so that it fits properly. Because if they were straight, then the ends won't fit in properly. Even though I was as careful as I could be trying to sand out these grooves, you tend to get kind of a V shape in that groove. So what I did was, before trimming these off each one, I kind of gave it a bevel along that edge, so that when it goes in the groove, it matches perfectly. So it's a nice tight fit. Alright, now that I have all my little pieces here, it's just a matter of fitting them in. I'll just give it a test fit. I think I will give this one a bit of a sand. I got a little sanding block here, some sandpaper. Yeah, it's a bit better. Okay. And then a little super glue. I just put a little dab of it on the insert here, just a little bit, just to set it in place, just so there's something in there already. Try not to push it in too hard. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on. It's not like you have to clamp these in place or anything, as long as it's fairly snug. You can tell, or I can tell, it's pretty snug, and it's gonna start setting up almost right away. Super glue is great though, because it'll fill up all these little gaps, or the hairline gaps I should say, and any of those chips that we fixed yesterday. It's just going to reinforce those even more, and hopefully when we sand this down, it's going to be a nice super smooth finish there. Get some on this side. Trying not to put too much, because you don't want it to drip down onto the back of the neck. Would not be good. This stuff will not come off. That's one thing with it. You have to be really careful while you're working with it, that it doesn't drip on things that you don't want it to touch. If I were to get on the body, so I have the masking tape here. If I were to drip it on the body, that'd be it. Even if I went to wipe it off right away, it's done. And I'm more worried about that than getting it stuck to my fingers. I do get it stuck to my fingers, but it's not a big deal. And I forgot to trim that. Hey, how about that? There we go. I've been doing that before I glue it in. It doesn't matter though, but I'd rather do it before I glue it in. This is a really cool little tool that I have. It's actually like a little mini saw. It's an X-Acto blade. I use this thing all the time. It's perfect for this kind of thing. Just get right in there. It's not too aggressive on it where it's going to splinter or crack the maple. I can just run along and cut all these, trim off all these little ends. This is where I need to be extremely careful. I've got just an X-Acto blade, a brand new and a sharp one, because the reason you have to be extremely careful is you don't want to split these pieces trying to trim them. I'm going to also sand. I'm not going to take this right down to the fretboard with the X-Acto blade. I'm just really just trimming off about, I don't know, about 60% of the wood. And then once I get down to like these are done with the X-Acto blade. I'm also paying attention to which way the grain is going, so that I don't dig in. And if I do feel that I'm digging in, then I just stop and I go back the other way. Again, with a little bit of patience will pay off. Now that I've got all these trimmed off, I'm just sanding them down Got the fretboard protected with some masking tape in the body, and I've got that 150 grit just on a sanding block. I'm just holding it. That's why this stuff is great. Just holding it, trying to get those, get the edges down a little bit. I'm going to get this down to where it's almost touching the tape. If it starts ripping the tape up and going through it, then it's going to kind of defeat the purpose of having the tape on there. But it's going to take some time, not that long, but it'll, you got to be patient. But once I get down almost to the fretboard, I can actually take sandpaper and go the other way and get this down super smooth. I was excited at the beginning of this project, but I'm at a point where I'm kind of really excited because I got these all sanded down to the level of the masking tape. I really have a feel of how it's going to look even with all this stuff on here. I think it looks kind of cool right now. I made a little sanding block. This is a planed edge, so it's nice and flat, and this is the 150 grit that I was using before, and I just put that on there with double-sided tape. That's another reason why I like this kind of sandpaper. This time I'm going to sand along the length of the fretboard. I'm going to go against those frets, and because now they're down far enough where I'm not worried that they're going to break off. But I'm only going to take off just enough of the wood and the glue. I'm not going to dig into the rosewood at all. And the block is big enough that it'll span more than 1 or 2 frets on the large frets, because I don't want this riding up and down like waves, digging into the fretboard. I want it to be nice and smooth. But once I just take off the glue and the maple, level it, then I'm going to go and change my grit, and I have a series here. No specific number really, whatever I have in the shop, as long as it goes from the coarse grit down to a fine grit. I've always got these things laying around, but there's 320, then I'll go to 280 at 800, then I'll get down to 1500, and that should bring it up to a nice shine, and then I can put the lemon oil on it. I just want to stop right now before I go any further, because I just want to get a quick shot of this because I'm really liking it. Just get a close-up here if I can. How sharp these lines are. I was really worried that there may be chipping or excessive like little dimples where the frets used to be. I didn't want to sand a whole bunch off. I wanted to keep it pretty much like it is. But yeah, this is cool. I'm going to keep going. So from here on in, I'm done with the block sanding. The fretboard is level. I don't need to take down any more wood. So from here on in, I'm just going to hand sand, and this is the 800 grit, and then I'll do the 1500, and that'll bring up a nice shine, and then it's going to be ready for the lemon oil.